Welcome to Injured? Ask Grover, featuring top personal injury attorney David Grover. Voted a New York super lawyer 6 consecutive years, David brings his 3 decades of experience to explain the most common questions he encounters from all forms of negligence, recklessness, and carelessness. Misconduct that can cause emotional, mental, or physical harm. This is the podcast where injury law meets real life. No legal fog, no corporate spin, just straight talk from the plaintiff's side of the courtroom. This is part 2 of 2 of David's episode on what to do when you are involved in an automobile accident. If you missed part 1, you may want to listen to that first before proceeding with this portion. Then the next question I had was, what is the threshold to fill out a formal report, even if you don't have police?
People hear police report, they assume that means, well, the police report. Cops come, they take your information, they fill out name, address, insurance, and details about the accident. But there's something else. In New York, there's something called the MV-104.
Yeah.
Anytime there's someone injured or property damage over $1,000, which, by the way, $1,000, not a lot of property damage. I mean, it could be a dent, could be $1,000.
I know, exactly. $1,000 does nothing, especially in New York.
Yes. So you're supposed to fill out what's called an the law requires you to fill out an MV-104.
Okay.
It looks like a police report, except you sign it. You give your perspective on it.
Okay.
Your name. You say how the accident happened. You sign it. You file it into Albany. It gets filed with the state, and it's part of the state records.
Okay.
So yes, you have to do it, and you'd be surprised. A lot of people don't, and you have to, and it's a violation if you don't. So do it. But again, it's going to go back to the same thing. Have an attorney help you. You're going to sign it.
Because that's the first thing you'll tell them to do, right? Or do it yourself for them, right? On their behalf.
Like, well, okay, I want my clients to put it in their own, they're signing it. I like to have them do it in their own words. But I still want to see it because people make mistakes. I'm not going to change what the story is. I'm not going to change the fact pattern, but sometimes people make grammar mistakes and they say the wrong thing and they car 1, car 2, and they can be confused. But yeah, so I always like to see it, but it's in their words and they sign it. It's really essentially their testimony.
Okay. Now, Jill was very lucky that neither she nor the driver that hit her were actually injured. But unfortunately, that's not always the case. What do you do if you're involved in an accident where someone gets hurt?
If there's any inkling of an injury, call 911.
Okay.
Go to the emergency room. I know it's annoying. I know it's not great. I know you sit there for 7 hours sometimes, but they're all, again, back to what I said earlier, your health is paramount. That's the most important thing. So get there. There could be issues. I'm not a doctor. There could be internal bleeding. There could be fractures. There could be things that need to be checked out. Go to the emergency room.
Got it.
Okay. I also like to say, and this is less for your health and more because I like to document everything. Anything with the injury document. If you have a laceration, you have cut, you have bruising, take photos of it. I know it's weird to do it at the time, but later on you're going to be happy you did it. So go, get checked out, go to the doctor. And, a lot of these things, what I find with a lot of these types of injuries, a lot of auto accidents, you have neck, back, you have shoulder, you have knee. Sometimes they don't manifest themselves so quickly.
Right.
Yeah, you could be in an accident and have, and when you go to the ER, by the way, I also tell people when you go to the hospital, tell the hospital every single pain that you have at the time. The reason I say that is it's human nature to go to a hospital and to just tell the doctor what your biggest pain is and ignore the ones that are also there. So I have clients who go there and they have really bad back pain, and their knee hurts somewhat, but they're so consumed with the back, they don't bring up the knee. And the next day, the knee is really bad and they might need surgery down the road. And the first thing a defense or an insurance company is going to say to us is, well, they didn't complain about it in the emergency room. So my point is, obviously, always be honest. but don't leave anything out. Just make sure you say every body part that bothers you, not just the one with the biggest pain, with the more significant pain. So, and then of course, again, back to the point that it takes a few days to manifest itself, you got to follow up. You got to get to a doctor. Go there. Tell them what your situation is. Tell them what your pain is. Get your testing done. Get diagnosed. Don't let, I have clients who let these things go, who have terrible pain, but don't do anything for a couple of months. And if you do that, it's hard to really establish a case when you have a big gap in treatment, because insurance companies, defense lawyers, juries one day, they might doubt your injury if you don't follow up. Why didn't you follow up? Well, yeah, you have a good reason and you could explain it. And our clients, when that happens, can explain it. So follow up with a doctor. Go there. When you're in an auto accident, all your medical bills should be paid by no-fault insurance, not your private insurance, not Medicare, not Medicaid. Okay? What is no-fault insurance? All right. So every car in New York and other states as well, but we'll talk about New York here.
Okay.
Has a part of their insurance policy called no-fault insurance. What that does and what that means is if you're in a car accident, your car, not the car who hit you, doesn't matter who caused the accident, hence the name no fault, your car pays all your medical bills, much of your lost wages, and any additional expenses, up to the minimum of $50,000. Some people have more, but you have to have at least $50,000 in no-fault benefits.
And this is built into everybody's insurance policy? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So what's important to know is when you go to a hospital, you go to a doctor's office, make sure they know this is no fault. Make sure they bill no-fault insurance anywhere you go. Not only because you're supposed to, you have to, but the other reason is down the road, if you get a settlement on your case, other insurance policies get a potential lien. They could take some of your settlement to pay back the medical bills. No fault does not get a lien. So always use no fault.
Okay.
Now, of course, there's always exceptions to every rule, right?
Okay.
Sorry, motorcycle drivers. Motorcycle does not have no fault in New York State and most states.
Oh, really?
So,
Okay.
yeah, well, I'm going to surmise the reason. Probably because they're a little more inherently dangerous in terms of serious of having
Well, not
big
just
injuries.
a little more, right? I mean,
Yeah.
when you
Oh,
look
yes,
at the
that's what I
numbers,
mean.
it's pretty dramatic. Yeah.
Yes. So I think that's probably why they did this. They exempted motorcycles, so they don't want to pay these extensive bills for motorcycle rider victims.
Right.
Yeah. So motorcycles do not get no fault, but everyone else does. You're in a car, you're in a bicycle, you're a pedestrian, all get no fault, and it is all from the car that you're in driving. So now, there's always in life, right? There's always trade-offs, right? So no fault is great for a car because you get these benefits. But the reason they have this law is not just to be so generous. It's to limit lawsuits against cars that cause the accident, right? So the idea of no fault is to have people collect medical bills, lost wages from their own policy. Thereby, no need to sue the car that caused the accident. And then the reasoning is the courts will be less clogged, there'll be less litigation. And that's really what the premise is.
Okay.
Now, if you're on a motorcycle, it doesn't matter. You don't get no fault. You could sue anybody for anything. Doesn't make a difference. But if you're in a car, what the law says is, yeah, we'll give you no fault. You get your medical, you get your lost wages, no problem. However, you cannot sue the person who caused the accident unless you have sustained what's called I'm going to use quotes, serious injury. So that's their way of limiting lawsuits. That's what a lot of these states do who have no fault. Some do, some don't.
And serious injury is something that requires medical treatment? I mean, what's the threshold on that one?
No. So some of it is obvious, right? Death, dismemberment,
Yeah. Right.
loss of fetus.
Well,
That's
what if I have
really-
a concussion? What if I have a concussion?
Well, and then we get into okay, so now you're getting me to the gray areas, right?
Okay.
Yeah, and that's where the lawyers earn their money, so to speak, because there are certain things that are kind of, is it a significant limitation to a body part?
And it's hard
Is
to
that
prove. It's hard to prove with medical tests, right?
it?
Concussions or
It's hard to prove because I'm gonna get some of the verbiage here too, of the exact quote. So there are also things like, okay, there's the 90-180 rule, for example, and I'll put this in kind of plain terms, which is, was your life significantly inhibited? Could you not do some of your normal life tasks the first 90 of the 180 days after the accident?
hmm.
So what does that mean? I don't know. It's fact specific. No one. So there's no. So unless you have, the death, dismemberment, fracture, which I'm not sure if I mentioned earlier, those are easy. Now you get into these 90-180 and significant limitations, and then it's kind of a gray area. It's kind of vague, and that's where attorneys and doctors, you have to make your argument, whether it's to the insurance company to settle, whether it's to a court with an emotion, or even down with a jury. If there's a trial, you have to show that you meet this threshold to order to collect even a penny from the car who caused the accident.
Okay, so we've been talking, for the past few minutes, from the perspective of a person who is absolutely certain that somebody else caused the accident. Okay, what if the tables are turned and the other guy is making a claim against you that you were responsible? You may or may not believe you were, but that's what's going to happen. How does that change all this stuff?
Yeah. So, number one,
Okay.
really important, put your carrier on notice. I can't stress that enough.
Is that the
Because
insurance company when you say carrier?
your insurance company.
Yeah, your insurance
So
company.
I caused an accident. I am letting my insurance company know that day. What? That's why look, accidents happen. That's why we have insurance.
Right.
To cover us in case this happens.
Right.
So depending on the amount of your liability insurance you have, in theory, if it's large enough, it should cost you nothing. Nothing for legal fees, nothing for settlements. Your carrier will defend you. They will indemnify you. They'll pay judgments. They'll pay settlements. And of course, I always have to throw in the rare exception thing, of course. If you have a tiny policy and a major injury, in theory, you can be liable personally, but that's rare. It's really your insurance. But I do, again, just in case, and I really push this with clients, get a large enough insurance policy. Get a big one. It doesn't cost that much money. So the New York minimum you have to have in New York is $25,000 per person in an accident, $50,000, $25,000 per person, $50,000 per accident.
Right. It's a law in almost every state that you have to have some minimum threshold of insurance, right? Liability plus all the other
Yes.
stuff. Okay.
Now, I always tell clients, get a bigger policy.
Don't do the minimum, which is like dirt, the very bottom of
Yes.
the barrel, right? Yeah.
It's not how much more money. It's not like tons and tons of it's not. It's for a nominal amount of money. You could go from a 25 policy to a $100,000 policy to a $250,000 policy. Get a bigger policy.
Unless you have a bad record, right? Then it's like, then they want to charge you through the teeth, right?
Yes, but they'll charge you through the teeth even for a small policy.
Okay.
But again, if you have any assets, protect your assets. Get the bigger insurance policy. So if you have an accident and you cause it, remember, this is not intentional. An accident is negligence, okay? It's nothing you're doing intentional. People make mistakes. People have accidents. People hurt other people. And you want to protect your assets and make sure you're insured enough. So you contact the insurance company, you let them know, you cooperate, and they should cover you from day one to the end. But got to do that. So it's so important.
So you got insurance, and then, like you said, they will advocate on your behalf and blah, blah, blah. But when is a case when a person actually sues for their own personal injury. What is the threshold of that?
Yeah. So, a lot of it is it depends on the situation. So we take every case, we evaluate. I mean, we come in, we help the client through the process. They go to the doctors. They should go to, again, no doctors who accept no fault insurance. They go through their treatment. They go, if any testing, they get diagnosed, they get prognosis. We get the records. At the same time, we're in touch with the other insurance company, the car who caused the injury. We're in touch. We're in discussions. We're giving them records. We're keeping a relationship going. And we develop good relationships with a lot of these insurance companies.
Sure.
So we speak to them. And our first thought, if possible, is to get the case settled even before court. It happens all the time. So especially when you're dealing with small policies and any kind of significant injury, there's no need to go through 5 years of litigation, 4 years, and go to trial. If I could get you that $25,000 insurance policy today, why not? As opposed to getting the same amount 3 years from now. So that's always a possibility. If the carrier and us disagree on value, that's when we go to court. So someone has an injury that I think is worth settlement of X amount of money, and the carrier is offering 10 cents on the dollar, well, then we'll go to court. Someone has a very big, significant injury, we also often go to court as well.
Well, I mean, and that would be the other question. So what if the other guy that caused the injury has sort of that minimum threshold insurance, or he or she has broken the law and they're uninsured?
Okay, so
now you're really screwed, right?
Whoa, this gets back to what I was minutes ago, because when I was just saying, perfect segue, actually.
Okay.
So when I say get a bigger insurance policy, well, in that context, we were talking about if you cause an accident, you want to protect your assets. You want to make sure you have enough insurance to pay the person that you injured, right? But there's another part to this too. Let's say I have a $100,000 insurance policy. Someone hits me and either has no insurance or it's a hit and run and they leave the scene.
And never discovered?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. My policy covers me up to $100,000.
Oh, wow.
The same $100,000 I have to protect myself from other people putting in claims, I could utilize that $100,000 for a hit and run. It also works when someone has minimum insurance. So let's say the guy hits me, doesn't leave the scene, has a $25,000 policy, and I have my 100. I'm entitled to get $75,000 more from my policy to equal the 100. So back to my point from before is, yes, it's worth a few extra bucks to get that bigger policy. Okay. You don't know when you'll need it. You can't do it after the fact. You can't have a big accident. Man, all right, now I'm going to up it. You have to do it before. And look, it's insurance. I'm not here to spend anybody else's money. I understand that. But it's not that much more. When you get your insurance, ask, how much more is it to get the next level? How much more is it to get above that? Because you never know when you'll need it. And it really isn't that much more money.
Okay. So, David, obviously, the accidents that I've personally been involved with were not my fault, but that doesn't mean the other guy doesn't see it differently. So and even if you do call the police and they arrive, it's not immediately apparent to them whose fault it is. So what do you do in these situations where people disagree on liability and resolve who is actually liable?
Yeah. So some things are a little more obvious.
Okay.
Like with my wife's accident, she was hit in the rear.
Right. You can look at the skid marks and you just the police go, okay, come on. You rear-ended her.
A rear hit.
Right.
Again, and I always have to say, in almost every case, because there's always exceptions, when someone's hit in the rear, the person who hit the person in the rear almost every time is the one liable for the accident. That's easy, right? But then you have other types of situations. You have stop sign cases. So who has the right of way? It comes down to that. So if a person's at a stop sign and on one side, and on the other side, the person does not have a stop sign. Not always, but usually the car with the stop sign is the one responsible for the accident. There were exceptions, speeding, and all that kind. But for the most part, if you have the stop sign, the other guy's got the right of way, you caused the accident. It's also true when it comes to left, and I see this all the time, left turn cases, right? Two cars going the same direction, opposite directions, both have green lights. One car makes a left turn. Well, that car caused the accident because the car going straight has the right of way.
Right.
And again, there are exceptions to everything, but for the most part, if you're making the left turn, you're probably the one who's liable.
Right, because you were supposed to give that other guy. Yeah, that just happened to me the other day. I just barely missed getting my ass kicked.
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. We also have pedestrian issues, right? So the car is making a left turn. The pedestrian is going with the light. Pedestrian always has the right of way in those situations. You hit the pedestrian, 99% of the time, you're the one who's liable.
And that's big bucks. That is big bucks, right? Running someone over.
Depends on the injury. Well, it depends on the injury, but
Yeah,
but then you have, red light cases. And they get tricky. It's like, okay, one, he said, she said.
Yeah.
I had the green light. No, I had the green light. So we could do research. We could get a red light camera. Sometimes these lights have cameras.
Well, I mean, in the county I live in, almost every intersection, of course, I live in a very populous county in Northern Virginia, which is affluent, like 1.4 million people, where almost every single light has a camera. So, praise the Lord.
But we know a lot of my clients do these days.
What?
They have dash cams. They have these cams.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you recommend that? Do you recommend dash cams for everybody?
Do recommend that.
Okay.
Especially, who does it? My livery clients, because they're driving all day, every day. So a lot of them have these dash cams. It's always, it is good. It did have a dash cam. I would definitely recommend that.
All right, audience, dash cam. I mean, are these things that we can get for under $100? Is it sort of like a nanny cam or something? Okay.
Oh, well, I have one of my clients sitting right next to me, actually, one of their dash cams. And then another kid, I'm getting a lot of these days because New York especially, and I think we are too, everyone's on bikes, right? Bicycles.
Oh, yeah. Bike lanes, man, it's dangerous.
Yeah.
It's dangerous out there.
I'm getting a lot of clients, and it's called dooring. You know what dooring is?
No. Oh, you mean open a door and then the guy hits it?
Riding your bike.
Okay.
The car opens the door. Bam. That's another liability case where you're supposed to, especially to a bike lane, you're supposed to know when you open the door that nobody's coming.
Are you representing the biker or the driver, or could be either?
The biker. No, the biker.
The biker,
the driver,
okay.
I'm seeing this more and more now, these dooring cases. And, we don't represent the cars, obviously, because cars have their own insurance. So their insurance attorneys represent them. But we represent
But what
the
about the
bikers.
biker? I mean, does an average biker have insurance?
No. But,
I mean, I own a bike. I ride around. I don't have insurance for my bike or
Well,
me
you
on
don't.
my bike.
No, but remember, back to the no-fault question.
Okay.
So the biker gets no fault.
Okay.
They get their medical bills. They get their lost wages. And they have a case against the car and their insurance policy.
Well, and is there any difference between that? And I think New York has gone this way too. I mean, so many cities have, where they have these electric scooters that you can rent by the hour or whatever, pick them up.
Yeah.
And they basically use the bike lanes that, the actual normal bikers use. But they're just like, they pick it up, swipe the credit card, go. I mean, is that the exact same thing, or are there differences?
Well, you pick up a lot of good points.
Okay.
So it depends on the bike. So
Okay.
if you go over a certain amount of miles if it's capable of going above a certain amount of miles per hour,
Yeah.
if it's a certain type of bike, it's considered a motorcycle, and then you don't get no fault. Back to the no fault exceptions. If it's a bike and it goes under whatever certain miles an hour, it's considered a bicycle, and it's like you're being a pedestrian. It's like being a pedestrian.
But those
So we're-
scooters are pretty low, aren't they? Like 10 miles an hour? or
They're
something?
usually considered pedestrian. Like
They
bicycle.
are. Okay. So that's like being a pedestrian. Okay.
Yeah, we've had some very big, significant cases with those kind of scooters. Yeah, they could be dangerous depending on where you are, what you're doing.
I mean, if you get hit by a truck, I mean, that's really, you're really vulnerable, aren't you?
Those are see, those are big cases, and
Okay.
I have a couple of them. Right now we're pretty busy on. Trucks obviously could be very dangerous when they make those big turns. If you're on a scooter, if you're on a bicycle, if you're a pedestrian, we've had some tragic cases with trucks. They're big, and they're also it's sad, some of these cases and some of these injuries I've seen, and wrongful death cases. Those are always difficult to go through because of how terrible, and you're dealing with the family, you're dealing with people so devastated. So yeah, you get that a lot with trucks, bicycles, pedestrians, and that's something that is also it's a lot, and there's a whole other field of law with that in terms of rules and regulations and of that nature. But yeah, so that's really important. So gotta be safe out there.
David is a partner at the firm of Grover and Fensterstock. Their 24-hour hotline is 1-866-99-LAWYER or 866-995-2993. The direct line is 212-527-7575. This podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and does not constitute legal advice. Laws vary by jurisdiction and can change over time. If you need legal advice regarding a personal injury matter, feel free to consult our host, David Grover, in New York State, or an attorney located in your home state to discuss the details of your case. Copyright 2026. Grover and Fensterstock, PC, all rights reserved.